This is the voice of freedom. We are not one voice. We are many. We are your voice. But we can only be effective if you use your voice. Your voice. This is the voice of freedom. We will not hide from the truth. We will ask the hard questions until we are sure we have the truth. Welcome to the voice of freedom, where your voice will never be silenced. Day. So, more fortuitous night it couldn't be that we get to be joined by the wonderful Wikileaks Chick herself. So, put your hands together. Here she is. I've been struggling all day trying to think about what do I call you, Wikileaks Chick? Because Wikileaks Chick it's a long thing to say. Excuse me, Wikileaks Chick. So, Wiki Chick, Rick Chick, I'm just going to say, hey, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no worries. Rick Chick. Kaz is fine as well. Kaz is
okay,
the commonly used term.
Okay, so tell us about yourself. Tell us, what's motivated you. Where have you come from in your quest to, find WikiLeaks, and what's your association with Julian Assange? Okay,
my earthly hero. Wanted to save the world from about the age of 6. My mum said that I was a handful, wanting to go to protests and stuff, and had to explain to her very eager daughter that wasn't possible because they would take me away. Been fighting to save the world and want a better place ever since I could remember. I was profoundly affected by a visit to the zoo where all the other kids were all happy and excited, and I was absolutely devastated seeing a polar bear in a concrete cage with no water in Sydney. I could not reconcile. Right. And it changed who I was at a very early age. I realized I was different from everybody else at 6. And I've spent my life ever since then trying to change the world, trying to save the world, one animal at a time, then one person at a time, one child at a time. I'm not happy with the state of things. We are blessed to be on this beautiful planet. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. It should not be like this. Yeah. It should be a lot simpler, a lot happier. People should care more about each other. We shouldn't be tied up worrying about a jab that is created to scare the living daylights out of us. A man that tells the truth should not be rotting. His father should not have to sell his house to keep fighting for him. In this world, we deserve better. And we should do better. That's where I stand. And this man had a profound influence on me. I moved up to the North Coast from Sydney when I was 15, 16. And I realized that the city life and what we're taught in school is nothing like it really has to be. I was open to a new alternate lifestyle up here, people who thought a different way, people who lived off the grid, people who still knew how to farm and to eat healthily, to avoid the chemicals, to laugh, to dance, to be hippies. I learned there was another way to do things. I'd come from a city life where my granddad was quite a powerful person. We lived on and off with my grandparents for the first 7 years of my life. I had a lot of influence from him. His reading material, it showed me there was more than what we were being taught at school. And certainly school just seemed to teach people to parrot. They didn't teach you to think. And I thought a lot. And it set me on a path, I guess, for my entire life to want better and to fight for better and fight for those who fight for better. i.e. Julian. And I say he's my earthly hero. I cannot impress that enough upon people. He's an amazing man. He will be viewed in history as a hero, a multi-generational hero. What he has done, the people of this time, there's only a few of us that can comprehend what he did, what he has done, the risk he's taken, the life of his own that he's compromised and that he's had to live in a prison.
I've had I've had a lot of connection issues while you've been talking, and you've been really dropping in and out with me. I've been trying to figure out, and I've just changed connections on the fly. So we'll just see how that sort of sticks together. So unfortunately, I'm not sure whether or not everybody else missed as much of that as I did. So I don't know, Sue, you've just tuned in. You might not be able to help me. Carla, somebody tell me, did you manage to hear much of what WikiLeaks Chick was saying when she kicked off there, or should we start all over again? Having a bit of a glance. You can hear, everybody can hear. All right, let's move on. Everybody seems to be happy. Yes, I think you're not on your lonesome there. Obviously, everybody who's tuned in tonight has an interest in seeing, I think, justice served when it comes to Julian Assange. And nobody here is going to disagree that he hasn't been persecuted in every possible way. Well, I suppose let's go back. Some people may not be really aware or may have forgotten because it's been a few years. What got him into trouble initially? And we do have, I won't post them up into the show because we're having issues with connection, and the more video I throw up and try and play, the harder it's going to be. But I will post these links down into the chat down here, folks. So if you want to go and have a look at essentially what started it, I guess, is the video released in the dump from WikiLeaks called Collateral Murder. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It was that is definitely what put the focus on him in a dangerous way for certainly Hillary Clinton, or Hillary, I like to call her, who openly called for him to be droned, and people stood up in Congress over there and called for him to be assassinated.
Yep.
Because they weren't happy about the world seeing.
Like one congressman standing up and saying, "Where are our special ops? We've got assassins who do this work, wet work. Where are they? Send them out for him." All that sort of crap.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They didn't do their due diligence while they're in their Black Hawks shooting down innocent people and like journalists. And there was a gentleman. It's the one that really tugged at my heart, apart from the innocents that got killed. But this was raw, just raw evil from the helicopter. It was the attitude that they had towards the lack of sanctity of life in their eyes. They're calling out, tell us now, that now, wanting to shoot these journalists. Oh, it's an AK-47. No, it wasn't. It was a camera. You could clearly see that in the video.
Yeah.
But the distressing lack of care for a living human, and then a father turns up with his kids in his van over to try and help one guy who was still crawling to try to get away. He'd been shot down, but he was trying to rescue this fella. He had his two kids in the front of his van. They shot him down. He covered himself, even though he'd been shot. He covered his body. He covered his children with his body.
Yeah.
And there is footage of that gentleman, of the gentleman that actually rescued the two kids from underneath the deceased dad. And it was horrific. He carried, and another gentleman, two people carried those two children back to their lines.
Yep.
And handed the kids over to get the kids to their hospitals to get them help. They wouldn't take those children back to get help. They actually handed them over to the locals. They could have saved those kids' lives. That soldier went on to make quite a loud stance about how he felt about that and what happened, and to explain how that affected him.
Yeah.
That tanks rolling over bodies. rolling into the scene after it had all gone down, just rolling over the bodies. And these people were not at the wrong time. They weren't doing anything wrong. But the US did not want that getting out. They didn't want the world that they weren't in control of what was going on. They had people who were kill hungry.
Yep.
I understand war changes people. It does, Carl. How can you be involved in that situation? It has to change you. But it shouldn't change you that you don't care about the people you're hurting. If you're not in there to help a situation, which we know is most of the wars that we've known about have not been to help anybody except people line their pockets.
Yep.
So we know this now, but it's very distressing to see it play out in real time like that. And Julian put that out there. They wanted him dead. They still do.
So that was only part of it, though. The Collateral Murder was filmed in Iraq, and the crew, the gun crew that put that together, like you say, treated it more like a video game. And it was, well, disrespectful in the most, but you are 100% right. They failed to identify the target. They have very good optics in those helicopters and those gunships, and they can zoom right in. Yeah. And yes, while I guess a long lens camera, 900mm lens camera is nearly 1 meter long and quite thick at one end, the other end still plugs into a normal sized camera. Yes, I guess it probably could look like a weapon slung over a shoulder, but if you got those sorts of optics that they have available to them, no, it would have come up with further investigation. If they had have done one more circuit of the corner where those gentlemen were standing on, and surveilled it from one more circuit, they would have figured out that there were no weapons, and that anything they initially identified as a weapon was in fact a camera or a microphone pole used to extend the length of a microphone, from the stand. So I don't know. I don't think that those airmen were ever brought to any sort of tribunal. Nothing.
They were protected.
Yeah.
Definitely protected.
So
by the same country that really doesn't protect its own people normally. It doesn't look at Benghazi.
Yeah. So move us along then to Afghanistan. What did WikiLeaks discover and Julian let out about Afghanistan?
Okay, so there was a person involved that obviously it came out afterwards. We never reveal our sources. We don't. But unfortunately, somebody who provided all of that information to us trusted the wrong person, to the wrong person, and that was Bradley Manning, now Chelsea Manning.
Yep.
The war logs that he provided were just the sheer quantity was unbelievable and insurmountable. Truthfully, I go into wikileaks.org. I'm somebody who has tried my very best to get a good handle on everything, and I haven't. There are just too many files. And when I say too many, there'll never be enough. Yeah. But everything's there. You put what you're looking for into that search engine, and it will bring up all of the things that reference that. And then it's unfortunately your job to go in there. And sometimes there's hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands of files. Certainly Hillary's emails, I think we have 30,000. And or 30,000 references in there, and
I was going to say, because she only thought she had 33,000 emails. You discovered the others. Well, not you personally, but
I wish I could talk in more depth about trust me, it's not possible for one human person to be able to get through all of those files. I think I've had a really good go.
Do you think that that's one of the issues that confronts WikiLeaks being more widely accepted in the community? Because it is difficult. If you go to WikiLeaks and you do type in, Hillary Clinton Pizzagate or Hillary Clinton server, you are confronted with hundreds of thousands of files, and they come to you in a different looking way to the way you would normally expect them to be. If you're not used to FTP file servers and all that kind of thing, it can all look a little weird. It can all look a little dark webbish, and people who might be nervous don't click. And then even like I've been guilty of it. I've clicked in on files and thought, oh, I'm going to find out about this, that, or the other, and I'm going to sit here until I read it all. And you click in, and it's an email, but you might click in halfway through the email trail, and you might only be seeing half of the email trail. So it becomes difficult to follow. You get bored. You haven't got to a juicy bit yet. These are just single line communications for the most part. And if you aren't diligent, if you aren't devoted, if you aren't dedicated, it's very easy to say, oh, fuck, that's just too hard.
Oh, yes, and truthfully it is. I think the best advice I give people is the .org is there for you to deep dive. That's there for you to go do your due diligence and do your research, especially if you plan to quote it or link to it. It gives you the links to the documents and to the proof. However, what I suggest to the average person who just wants to know the cliff notes and then dig is follow the WikiLeaks page on YouTube, on Facebook. And there's also another one, which is WikiLeaks Party Western Australia. Now, the party is now defunct, but I've been able to keep the website going. There's a couple of us that still utilize that. It's no longer just WikiLeaks, but first and foremost, it supports Julian and WikiLeaks. Then it also supports other people who are doing the same thing. For instance, Ricardo Bossi. Yep. He's our man, without question. If anyone has any doubts, we need this man to sort our country out, to take our country back. It hasn't belonged to us for a very long time. Yeah, and that's the man. He's the man. Anyone who has the gumption to step up and run as an independent underneath A1 and to support A1, you're saving the country. You're saving the country. And certainly he's the brightest I've had since Julian was locked away. I've never been so excited that we might actually get out of this alive. And, and if people are paying attention, there's also another one on Facebook called WikiLeaks Social Media Hub, which was created by me as a coordination hub, basically, for people to drop off and pick up information and flyers, to be in contact with the support networks, because they're everywhere. Every state has the support network for WikiLeaks and for Julian. And it's very good for being able to keep in touch. Also have a new couple of pages that have turned up on Telegram, which I highly recommend. I've checked everything that's coming. Everything is legitimate as far as I can verify. There's some newer stuff that I can't necessarily verify or haven't had the time to, simply because the .org is massive. And there just aren't enough hours in the day for me to keep up with what I do. I'm caught.
Maybe we put a bit of a call out here. We've got a few people watching at the moment, a lot of people commenting if this is something that you could use some help with, and there are people who just may need a little training, what to look for, how to look. Could you maybe use a little help here? Because maybe we've
most definitely
a couple of hundred people watching at the moment that obviously have an interest in what's going on, and you know your way at least into and through and around WikiLeaks as best as anyone can find their way around a billion files or whatever. But at least you've been down many of those paths, so it would be much easier to help those who want to help but are intimidated by the size of the job.
It's terrifying.
So if there is anybody who wants to make contact, I'll hook you up. Send me an email at voiceoffreedomhq@gmail.com, and I'll make sure that I get you in touch with WikiLeaks Chick if you want to help her out in the current quest. Which
that would be
bloody
fantastic.
Awesome.
The the plan would be for people to dig on it. Do not ever just take anything from anyone verbatim. Do your research. It's really not that hard. And if you've got your hands on all different pies, all different truth pies, all of the feeds, you soon discern which ones are legitimate and which ones aren't. They show themselves pretty quickly. And
so truth says what it is that you actually need help with. What are you looking for help with exactly?
Getting the information out, getting support for Julian. We need numbers. His father had to sell his own home to keep trying to save Julian.
Yeah.
He built his house by hand. He built it by hand and he had to sell it because he doesn't have the funds. So funds are very important, but support more so, and word of mouth more so. People need to know what's going on in this world. A lot of people, we're in a situation in this country where to buy a house, both parents have to work, try and keep their kids in reasonable education or private education, 2 jobs. There's no such thing as a home life during the week for parents that are paying off a house and trying to raise their children with good education. Therefore, word of mouth is so important. We need to draw people to this because this country is full of beautiful people that are too busy working 2 jobs. They don't have the time to dig.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had the time to dig going back to, but a broken back forced my hand and gave me the opportunity to still do something wonderful with my life and feel like I'm doing something worthwhile.
Yeah, great.
It played a very big part in it. What was I going to do? Lie down on the rest of my, for the rest of my life watching DVDs? I don't think so. Fight to save the world. It's not us anymore. It's our kids and our grandkids and our nieces and nephews. We want them to have a life.
Yeah.
I remember the 70s. We could go to the shop and leave the doors open. We didn't have to worry about it. It's a whole different world now. You can't even take your eyes off your kids, especially right now.
No, certainly not.
Yep.
So you're right. Everything has to change about our world. Kids have to learn respect again, but in many cases, so do adults. So, and especially respect to the younger generations. But we are going to lose 1, possibly 2 generations through what's been done to us over the last little while. And that in itself is going to present problems for the wider community. Because once that's discovered, essentially there are no rules. What are you going to do to someone who's got a terminal existence? So, those sorts of things are going to need to be broached with a great deal of care. Anyway, we're getting a bit off topic. So let's get back to Julian. Now, today, it was announced that the Home Secretary signed the extradition documents that will mean he's out of Belmarsh and off to the deepest, darkest hole they can find in America for him. But that doesn't mean that happens straight away. From what I understand, he will appeal this again to the High Court. So we've probably got another couple of weeks at least, maybe even a couple of years before
it could drag out.
It could drag out. High Court things notoriously do. But once again, who is paying for that? You've said that John, his father, has already had to sell his house, and I'm sure that those funds will have been probably exhausted by now too. I mean, Julian's been in jail for 10, 11 years, so held captive or whatever. He hasn't been in jail for that long, but you could call what happened in the Ecuadorian embassy jail just as easily. Now, people might want to help. WikiLeaks still obviously taking donations on behalf of Julian.
Yes, there are multiple funds. You'll be able to find the links to them both on the WikiLeaks Facebook page, also on wikileaks.org. And there's always, in all the support groups, there's always funding. They're chasing funding for the legal side of things as well, because as you can imagine, if nothing else, they're trying to break him just not being able to afford the legal representation he needs, and he needs the best. He does.
Yes. Well, I must say the Robinsons are pretty good over there. I was always a bit of a fan of Liz Robinson's father, and He is an eminently clever lawyer. At the end of the day, lawyers are lawyers, and well, we can talk about them from a different perspective on another day. At the moment, we need one, and we need a bloody good one. In fact, we need a pack of bloody good ones. There is a school of thought, though, that Trump is actually saving Julian, and that happened right from the get-go. It wasn't safe to bring him back to America. There was a school of thought. So maybe the deepest, darkest hole in England was, in fact, the safest place for him to be in, while many of the other things that we think are going on in the world at the moment were set in motion. Do you think there's much, scope or truth to that?
There are a lot. There's so much talk and a lot of rumors surrounding Trump in all of this. The general consensus is that a lot of people within my sphere are pointing the finger in a bad way at Trump.
Right.
My personal belief is something different.
Okay.
I walk a very straight line on my WikiLeaks work. He is my earthly hero, and I will never do anything that would put him in danger. But I would be remiss if I wasn't doing all my due diligence with the thought in my mind that if he ended up in the States, I wanted to make sure he was damn safe. I didn't want Hillary getting her hands on him. I didn't want the very vocal people, even his name has escaped me for the moment.
That's all right.
The secretary. The secretary. I just can't think of his name at the moment.
Secretary of State, or
he was even under Trump. He was. I just can't think of his name. I should have written it. Pompeo. Thank you very much, Carl. Mike Pompeo. Was calling for his death while he was under Hillary's watch and Senator Barr's watch. I get conflicting information about that man, between that he's a Christian and then what I know of his take on Julian. Personally, I'd like to see him away from the whole thing. I don't trust him. I trust him about as much as I trust Podesta, honestly. I'm concerned as to where his allegiance lies. I'm not so concerned about Trump. And this goes against what, as I said, the people in my sphere think. They're pointing fingers at Trump. I don't think they agree with that. Certainly, I, like everybody else, when I found out that Donald Trump was the president of the United States, said, oh my goodness, America's lost its mind. Which led me to do my due diligence. And I found a completely different story. I believe that that man is the spokesman and the head person in charge of something that will change our world.
Yeah,
I don't take that lightly. I'm open to the fact I might be wrong, but I don't think so. I think that we have a few people here and a particular Australian that I think has a definitely clear link. And if people are paying attention to the words that are coming out of a certain person's mouth, we have a man here and he's our man. And I have no question at all there's a link. I have no question at all that they are on the same page. Oh, yeah. We have hope. We have hope, people. Ricardo Bossi, that man, and his wonderful wife, Rio, absolutely amazing people. They work tirelessly whilst trying to educate their own two children. They're amazing. Yeah. They say what it is. They call it for what it is. They speak the truth. You don't like his swearing? I'm with him. Fuck off. Seriously. If you can't see what's happened to our country, if you can't see that we are as corrupt here, we haven't even owned our own country for a long time. USA Inc., which has gone bankrupt, we're up for grabs, folks. If you think it's safe, at the moment, our country is probably the one that's most at risk for a real physical war. You have two interested parties that want their part of our country. You have the US and you have China. China owns a lot of and I'm not comfortable with that. It's not that I have anything against the Chinese, but this is our country. We should be running it. Our fund should be in control. Our industry should be in control, not, certain bloodlines that we've had enough of. Go away. First, you want to take everything we own, then you want to kill us? What's up with that? You got everything. What's it going to do?
We've got people in the government already that want to do that too. So, we don't need to invite others in from overseas. We've got plenty of those evil pricks in our own government. So,
Donovan Lani, Julian is not. Sorry, Donovan Lani, Julian is not safe by any stretch. I have to totally agree with you. I've been saying it for years. How do you bring that man back safely? He's not safe in this country. This country sold him out, not the people, the politicians, the corporations, the people that will be affected. Thank you, Clary. I completely agree with you. I believe that he will be protected. Please understand this goes against what other people think within my sphere.
I like the way Donovan is thinking here. Will Taiwan be a cover to move, Julian? Well, let me throw something at you, Donovan. What if Julian's already been moved? What if he was moved a long time ago? Just leave that there. All right? Go and do a little digging, see what you come up with. But all may not be as it seems. Got to remember, the mainstream media don't tell us the truth. They tell us what they want us to believe. So I'll just leave that out there, and we might come back and talk about that another day, one day. WikiLeaks Chick. All right.
I can say that the concern for Julian within my sphere, with Julian's father, who I talk with his family, his kids, his wife, it is all very genuine. Everybody is really concerned, and he has not been well. That I have no doubt about. He hasn't had a life, any kind of life. He's an amazing genius. He really is. And people will understand that one day.
And people should understand he is actually autistic, isn't he?
Asperger's.
Asperger's,
yes. Which gives him a genius IQ. He's absolutely, without question. He did what I couldn't do. I'm not too much of a slouch in that direction, but I don't come close. That man did what I couldn't do. I can't even explain. I think apart from the fact that I bawled my eyes out when I watched Collateral Murder, I found myself in that position a lot along my investigations and my digging and my opening.org, looking at .org and looking for documents and digging on the files. I have a personal interest in protecting children from trafficking and from any kind of pedophilia. I have no tolerance for it. And if I didn't think I'd be judged by Jesus, he'd give me the gun and I'd sleep well at night. Not a problem. But unfortunately, I answer to a bigger power. And I pray all the time that he will be safe and recognized for what he's done. And Ricardo wants to bring him home safely and give him the Order of Australia.
My word.
Ricardo, you're amazing.
Well, I don't think Ricardo's on his lonesome there. There'd be many people who would be cheering Julian home and raising him to the highest office in the land if he so chose to be there. And I think he would be, like you say, a very effective gentleman back home here, helping Australia grow in the future in whatever position he chose to take up. You're right. I think he is an immense intellect, an intellect capable of playing 5-dimensional chess, which is what this game is essentially. And that's well beyond my capability. And like you say, probably yours.
Mine too.
So, I'm lucky to follow 1D chess. So,
I'm not even good at that.
Yeah. To be able to play 5, 6, 7 moves ahead. And those moves are years in advance.
Exactly.
That's what gets me. In fact, that's what if I have to admire anything about what has been done to us over the course of our existence by these bastards, I have to marvel at the intellect that put it together, bearing in mind that we're talking about, the subversion of humanity from, 900 AD, 800 AD, 600 AD. It is staggering to think that there was this plan in place back then, and the intellect that it took to put that together, without having any forward knowledge of the future, so to speak. But that then is another topic which I have never typed into WikiLeaks. But what would I get if I typed in Project Looking Glass into WikiLeaks?
Ooh, okay. I'm a fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I would call it a probability drive. Yeah. Yeah, a probability drive.
Catch a lung, yeah.
I believe that for a few reasons. There's a few things that have led me to believe that we may have technology that we as a general population do not know about, but that has been possibly provided by not of our kind, possibly. I know. Woo.
Extra influences.
Yes, this is not something I would argue, and I've argued from quite a young age, actually, that we seem to surpass, the technology surpasses the human ability, I think, largely. I don't think we're there yet. I think given a hint or given a handout with that, possibly. But there's something I have to say. WikiLeaks, 100%, never had to redact, never had to retract, and never been sued successfully in a court of law. Never.
Yeah.
We are 100% correct.
Yeah.
Statistically, that is impossible. It's impossible. I started thinking about that from a logical, intelligent point of view many years ago. How would he do that? How could they do that? He got caught at a young age hacking. That's not how it's been done. Everything's been provided. It's leaks. It's people who are there witnessing things that are wrong, that are providing those leaks.
Yes.
Now, how do we verify? Fast forward, and Trump. How has he managed to stay 6 and 7 steps ahead of everybody else?
Yeah.
Well, he has done nothing. It is nothing short of a miracle in itself. It's statistically improbable as well. You have two big improbabilities, which adds to my my theory that all is not what it seems on that front, and that gives me pause for hope. And any critical thinker would have to go, there's something at play here. Plus, you have references on another side of things I've personally studied. This has nothing to do with WikiLeaks, and it's not why I study it. It's because I would be remiss in my job promoting Julian and WikiLeaks if I wasn't also doing due diligence on other things that warrant discussion. For instance, Q and Donald Trump and the generals and Scavino Jr. There's a lot of information that comes out if you know what you're doing, and I don't profess to know how to completely decode. I was shown how to do it. I don't think I'm very good at it. However, I know people that really are, and it saves you a lot of time, and you can for me, I can concentrate more on the WikiLeaks side of things and drumming up support and being able to be a PR for WikiLeaks. My primary interest...
I've seen some of these code readers in action, and to them, it's like reading a book.
It is.
They don't have to. It all gets translated right there in front of them. It's amazing to watch. And my initial thought, the first time I saw this happen, my initial thought was, "Oh, you're just making this shit up." You've got this little script you've made up in your mind, and that's what this book's going to be about. So it doesn't really matter what words are on the page. The shit that comes out of my mouth, people tend to believe me. But I was set straight pretty quickly after I voiced pretty much exactly that, and I was shown then that there was a lot of hidden truth right in front of us. You know, stuff in plain sight that all we need to do is just peel back that layer of shit they've put on our eyes, and all will become clear. And it is like that. I mean, I've had my eyes open to shit that I never thought I'd ever see in my life. And it's all been right in front of me, you know, under a big golden arch is one hint. So,
yes.
So,
no amount of hunger will send me there, I might add. Not any amount of hunger.
No,
So
I'm the same. I used to be a very, 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 very good client. And nowadays I find it hard driving past one. It's difficult. And from the day I learned and the day I believed, it was instant.
Yeah.
Just instant. Couldn't and hasn't touched my lips since.
Look, I still am fighting since 15 years old, and they put a drink machine in our gym at my high school. And I went from chocolate milk to the dreaded black bubbly stuff.
Oh yes.
And they say they had they say it had cocaine in the early days, but I suspect that it's been there all the way along. And let me tell you, the hardest thing, I'm not an addictive personality, but I am really struggling to get off that. I know it's not good for me. I don't do anything else. It's not good for me. But let me tell you, I wake up with a headache after 3 days, and I'm driving to get one. You know, it's terrible.
I could give you my advice, but my advice is bad advice. I got myself off the black bubbly stuff because I was capable of drinking a couple of liters of it a day without even thinking about it. So I got myself off that, and the way I got myself off that was to go to cordial. Right. So the black bubbly stuff at 2 liters a bottle used to cost, you know, anywhere between, depending on where you bought it, $4 and $7 a bottle if you're stupid enough to buy it from a servo. And I discovered that I could buy cordial much cheaper than that and get a lot more drinks out of the cordial bottle if I use cordial. I thought, that's great. And then I discovered dollar lemonade, which is what you put with the cordial.
Yeah.
Right? The cheap, you know, just dollar at the supermarket lemonade. It doesn't do much for your weight loss. That's all I'm going to say. Or anything else.
Yeah, right? we do a lot of soda water.
I've replaced one batch of sugar for another. And now I'm working on, you know, weaning myself off it all because I have me and sugar have quite a history. You'd never tell by the, you know, the fabulous felt figure I am. Believe that. I've got a bridge in Sydney to sell you. But then, you know, we've got to make these sacrifices. Some would say for our lives. Sugar is one of the biggest killers, but it's also one of the biggest addictions we all have. And I am sure if I type in sugar addictions into WikiLeaks, there will be a story on it, won't there?
Oh, definitely. It's very hard to find something that doesn't show up. And it's certainly, you know, to say, I always say, and I heard it said on your show yesterday, you can't unknow what, once you know, you can't unknow. And that is totally right. And it does have an effect. I don't know too many people in our circles, Carl, who are still watching television. We just don't watch it anymore. Although I do advise people, if you want to have a bit of a brush up on technology side of things, from a sci-fi perspective that's rooted in truth, Stargate. Watch the whole lot, and you get a good idea of what is actually being suppressed. We have rumors of, well, I say rumors, but the digging I've done sure does indicate that there has been the use of certain things we're all looking forward to, like med beds and other cures that have been suppressed by pharmaceutical companies. They don't want us cured. There's no money in that.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, these things are caused by either a vaccination. I know that firsthand. You know, I've got a problem that I can't get rid of that came from a vaccination. Yep. And they don't know what causes it. There's no cure for it, but they can isolate it.
Yeah.
Which means that it's being worked up. Here's an interesting side note too that I don't know too many people know. I put the information out at the time, but as you'd imagine, it was censored and removed. Before they settled on the name 19, the CV19, I did a search on the corona.
Okay, yeah.
It turned up pages and pages and pages of so-called variants and corresponding vaccines. Birthright Institute in Canada. Now they're pointing fingers in all directions, but Birthright Institute in Canada has all of the same players. It's all the bloodlines. It's Soros, the Queen. What I saw alarmed me drastically because they hadn't even settled on a name at that point. I was looking for a root of, and I found all these derivatives you would not believe. Or we're just starting to hear now what they crossed into that. Those shots are completely loaded. They're not designed to take you out quickly. That's an accident. They're designed to take you out over a period of time so that it's obvious it was the vaccine.
Yeah.
They tell you you're positive, but they've never isolated it.
No.
People are going out and getting that, thinking they're doing the right thing. And unfortunately, we can't help the consequences of their choice. People tried to speak up. Conspiracy theorists, that's what we are, you know. And I know personally,
how many
there's me and my
conspiracy
mum.
theories? So many conspiracy theories, not how many, so many conspiracy theories have now been proven to be conspiracies, not theories.
Yeah.
Conspiracy. You know, it was a conspiracy theory that Donald Trump was set up by the Steele report. But you know, we've seen the results. We won't go into that because it'll get me banned again for another God knows how long. But you know, these there are many conspiracies that have turned, or conspiracy theories that have turned into full-blown conspiracies, and yet we don't seem to have seen any action on them. We're being told action is being taken on them, but you know, for many people, that action isn't obvious or fast enough. And I can sort of agree with the fast enough part because don't we want it to happen sooner rather than later? That's you know, really where we're chasing. So all right, let's assume for a moment that Julian is going to at some point in the next 2 years get shipped to America. What do you think will happen? Because that would put it down. Let's say the High Court challenge goes through. I reckon it's going to take 2 years. That means he's going to arrive right at the end of 2023, early 24 for the presidential election campaign. Where Donald Trump...
Carl.
Putting it out there.
My concern, as somebody who is very familiar with Wikileaks, what they do, is that the vested interests in wanting him gone, they're not going to give up. If they're still there and haven't been tried already, they are a danger. I don't see, regardless of how far down the track we go, how Julian could be free and be safe. Because it's like cutting the head off the top, you know. You take one person out at the top that might be a risk. Other people are stepping up into that role. There's always somebody who's clamoring to get up there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many take out. There's always going to be somebody that thinks that they can line their pockets or wants to go in for nefarious reasons. Yeah. They don't want someone like Julian around.
And he's now got a wife and 2 kids that he hasn't spent any time with hardly. If we're led to believe he's been in jail and the Ecuadorian embassy for as long as he has been. Yeah. You've got to think that's going to be a significant draw for him to want to withdraw completely, keep the family safe, and you know, disappear into a deep dark cavern in southern Tasmania somewhere where they're never going to be seen again. I'm sure he has the option, or will have the option, to go anywhere in the world. But is anywhere in the world safe for him? And what sort of a life can we expect him to lead? Will it be one sitting in a dark room in front of a computer screen because he can't be seen outside anywhere?
I've racked my brain over this for years. I can't see how he could be safe. We couldn't be sure. Even the tribunals that are happening in America at the moment, which are largely based on WikiLeaks documents and proof, That seems to be fairly common knowledge, I believe. They know that it's based on we've had the evidence. Wikileaks has had the evidence. A lot of heads are rolling over what they've done, and it's hard. It's one thing to have a public persona on the, with people like Hillary pretending to be something they're not, Obama pretending to be something he's not, and appearing to be nice. Well, certainly Obama, people were completely fooled by him, and people thought he was a good guy. And we now know he's probably he's up in the top 3 of the most evil of the lot of them. When you prey on children, that's a whole different dive, but we can do that some other time. But
sure.
I think that
Freely wants to know whether or not Elon Musk has a soft spot for Julian Assange. Would you know anything about that?
They're both Aspergic. I would say that would be, first of all, they would have to have some sort of respect for each other.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where I sit with Elon. I've been bouncing back and forth on him for quite a while. He does some good things, but then he started talking Neuralink, and I'm not happy with that. This whole transhumanism stuff. I understand what he's saying, why he's saying it's necessary to be able to keep abreast of the AI in the future.
Yeah.
But he was speaking against AI in the beginning. So what's he doing? Creating it.
CN77. Yes, I am interested in SSP. Email me if you want to talk about it. voiceoffreedomhq@gmail.com. And if you've got anything on it, send it to me. Let's look at it. Let's talk. Always keen to talk. Can never learn enough, I say. Even if what you're learning in part-time is bullshit, because it gives you something to dismiss against. And you'd be with that, down the WikiLeaks thing every day, wouldn't you? You don't necessarily run up every dead-end path and think, oh, shit, it's another dead-end path. It allows you to identify the next path more clearly and identify it as a shitty dead-end one before you travel too far down it. That's where I think the genius in the research actually is. Would you agree?
Yes. So we had somebody got into the WikiLeaks site when Julian had the computer taken off him in the embassy, had the net taken off him, and you'd be surprised how quickly the Facebook page got taken. And I'm very familiar with Julian's writing style. Not even a spelling mistake. He doesn't show a personal view in his writing, in his journalism. It is fact. That's it. You ask him his view personally, away from that, and he'll give you his personal point of view. But that's not his job. He sticks to the truth, and he has very tight parameters. He doesn't even make a mistake. He really doesn't.
Yeah.
So when somebody portrays him, loosely, I might add, because they were really terrible. I picked it very quickly and was on the phone, told John, you need to check it out. I was correct, and that was rectified. There's other people who step in different forums, like Discord. There was a person who took all of the newbies that were coming in. Sorry about the phrase newbie, but the people who weren't aware and hadn't been the old guard, that hadn't been there through this and watching what was going on and had a clear view of everything they could do.
Yeah. And,
chain smoking, asking for donations for herself. And she was up to no good. Yeah. Unfortunately, some people got caught up in, oh, she's wonderful. She's wonderful. She really wasn't. Yeah. Because she wasn't raising money for the legal fund or for Julian or supporting what was being done, what was being unearthed. She was in it for herself and to hold up her chain smoking. And unfortunately, people who do get involved have very high IQs and they're very hard to combat. Yeah. And I found myself on the shaft end of that one point. And luckily for me, when it reached its climax, I had the second most important person step up and tell them to go away and leave me alone. But they were coming after me because I said, nope, something's off. And I'm very familiar with Julian. I've watched every single bit of footage I possibly can to gain more perspective on his body language. I'm no expert, but you can tell it's not hard to tell when somebody's telling the truth. It's not. There are certain things to look for if somebody's lying. They're pretty easy to pick, and it's not hard. Anybody who wants to know that, look up Alan Peace and listen to him. It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
And you get a very good grounding for body language and looking for the signs that tell you somebody's not telling you.
In fact, I don't live too far from Alan Pease. I wonder whether or not I can line him up for a bit of a chat. We used to be sort of semi-friendly acquaintances years ago. So when he put out a couple of books that changed my life, can I tell you? So I must see if he and Barb are still on the coast here, and I'll see if I can hook them up. We'll maybe catch up and have a chat and do just what you say, because Alan Pease, most people would know him, obviously, as the body language expert. He toured Australia, I don't know how many times, toured the world, and taught many people about body language. It was always an enlightening and very entertaining evening if you were going out to an Alan Pease show.
Yes, and then after the fun you have afterwards is amazing.
Absolutely, and particularly if you can keep employing the skills that he gives you, and growing them, because they are immensely useful later in life, is how I would put it.
Yes,
you may
definitely.
not recognize at a young age just how useful learning body language can be, but
yes, I wish I'd known it younger, actually. I wouldn't have bought some of the bullshit I've been told growing up.
I still buy the bullshit. I just see it coming now.
That's exactly it. Sometimes it's good to let them have enough rope and they can hang themselves, and you can be very sure of your stance. So it's you utilize as many tools as you can in this line of work, and understand that anybody, this is just for public knowledge, that we're not paid. Nobody's paid. The people who work for Wikileaks and who support Wikileaks, we do it voluntarily because we want the world to be a better place and we want to save that man.
Yeah.
There's in my lifetime, I don't think that there's been anyone who is genuinely as important to me and has such an influence on me as Julian Assange. You know, we come from a hippie lifestyle up here on the North Coast. His mother was an activist hippie. Mother and dad met each other because of Vietnam protests.
Yeah, right.
You're talking about a way of life that you don't learn in the city and you don't learn at school. You learn it when you're thrust into it. My teenage years thrust into it up here, and I realized that the city life isn't the way it is, that there's a whole other way to do things, and it's so much better. Peace of mind at the end of the day. We're passing birds and not traffic. You know, there's so much to be said for that lifestyle, and it breeds peace.
Yes.
A lot of people wonder how I do what I do and still stay sane. I'll tell you, there's been times where I've wondered, certainly on the subject of the DUMs, and thank you for showing those pictures, Carl, because I don't think you realize how you cannot take your eyes off your children. And certainly with those DUMs, it's something that other people aren't aware of. We're talking about breeders that they've kept underground. Those children aren't missed because they've never been above ground.
Yeah.
They're not registered. They've never been registered.
Yeah.
And we can go down that rabbit hole a different time too. But let me tell you, you take your kids to the beach and you turn your back, you let them go to the toilets by themselves. Don't do it. And if you live in
disappeared in seconds.
And if you live in retirement and tourist towns, you're especially at risk, because by the time you can get action and any help, you're not in your own environment. You're in a stray environment. Retirement and tourist towns. The constabulary in those areas are used to a certain way of things going. It's not, the worst they have to deal with generally is domestic violence or, speeding drivers or, simple things generally, and some of the drugs in the area. But those constabulary do not know what it's like to be in the city. And if they do, if they've been in the city before, they should be doing a better job in their areas, because my experience here is that they have no idea. You know, they don't even have sanctity of life here. So
let me address Shane's question here. Do you even know if Julian is still alive and hasn't been murdered? All right.
Yes, he's alive.
Yes, he's definitely alive. Do we know he hasn't been cloned? No. Why would you clone him? A variety of reasons.
A variety of reasons. What if he's? Yeah. What if we don't reveal our sources?
Yeah.
What if you want him to reveal his source because it could be integral to a case, and we won't reveal our sources? We know that cloning is possible. We know that this. We all remember Dolly the sheep. They wouldn't have brought that sheep out when I was in high school in the early 80s. Had they not been mastered that, they'd mastered that a long time before. Anything we find out about, on average, is 20 to 40 years. It's been going on before we even get gist of that.
Yeah. And the agreement that the scientists signed never to clone a human being is only worth the paper it's written on.
If they had any idea of some of the things I've seen, we're not talking human breeding. We're talking hybrids.
Yeah,
I've got a video that I won't show. I've got it. It's one of the ones I draw upon even on my phone, so that I can draw upon it to remind me on those days where I'm crying and I can't cope that day. I just seen something that devastates me. Some of the footage I've seen, Frazzle Drip, for instance. Everyone talks about Frazzle Drip. I saw that. And let me tell you, if you get the opportunity to watch it, folks, do not watch it. You can't get rid of that. It has a profound effect on your life from there forward. You cannot remove it. You can't unsee it. We're talking unspeakable evil, and there's no other word for it. Yeah. You're better to go spend the time, hug your kids, than to watch that. But bear in mind that there is unbelievable, unimaginable evil.
Yeah. There is evil that you good folk cannot believe, will not believe. You'll think we are just making it up. We're horrible people for thinking it. And then, you might be goaded into going to watch something like Frazzle Drip. Frazzle Drip will damage you. It will make an impact on your psyche like nothing else in your life to date.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing, Carl. I can't even describe it because that does too much damage.
No.
But you take the worst imaginable thing you can think that somebody could do to children. You take two women that do that to that child.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from it. I threw up. And I've seen some pretty horrific live organ harvesting videos that threw me for a spin, and really I shut down for days over it. I couldn't. Normal people with a good heart can't imagine that. How do you possibly put together in your mind that somebody can do that? It's disgraceful and it's just unimaginable. And I can tell you that after I threw up after Fast and I saw the two in a row. I saw the live harvesting one. I threw up and I walked back into my room, and it had a profound effect. The only thing I could see, I was feeling a little bit dizzy. I wasn't right after that. I walked back into my room and I saw my Bible, and I tell you, I grabbed it and I prayed and prayed and prayed, because we learned one thing in science growing up: everything has an equal and opposite reaction. What I saw was unimaginable evil. It changed my life. And I spend a lot of time praying, because I don't see what else we can do. Pray and watch your kids. Don't let them out of your sight. Don't trust Tom, Dick, or Harry to mind your kids. Make sure you hire people who have a working with children check. Look after your children. You don't realize the scope of this and how dangerous it is in the world for children.
Yeah.
And I can't impress that enough, that most people can't even imagine, let alone to see what I've seen, and have to live with that. I'll never get rid of it.
Yep. There are people like you and I that will do this so others don't have to.
That's exactly right.
and all we can do is sacrifice what we lose of ourselves to do this, because I'm okay to do that.
Yeah.
You're right. It has an effect. It has a deep effect. And I've found myself going to talk about this kind of thing twice now, and people have seen that I'm not, like you say, and I'm starting to choke up now. It has an effect, and I thought I was ready to talk about it, and I'm not, because I tear up immediately, and my voice starts to break when I think of what I've got to try and tell people. And it's fucking horrible, people.
We carry it for the rest of our lives. We'll never get rid of it. There's talk that with these med beds we may be able to escape the trauma and be able to remove the trauma. It still doesn't change. We still remember it. And for me personally, I've seen a lot, and I quite often get asked, how do I cope? How do I cope with it? I always tell people I have a cupboard in the back here. Everything gets put in that, and I teach people to compartmentalize. They undo that in therapy, but it's the only way to live with it. Have a cupboard there. You put that in your mind. It's in there. You know it's there, but you just don't open it. Yeah. And bear in mind that if we've been led to see it somehow or sense it, we're meant to sort that out. We're meant to work for that, work against it, and to change things. Yeah. There's a reason that we're driven to do what we do. It's a calling. Yeah. There's no question about that. It's a calling.
And
we don't get up every day.
And for those people who, like CPN, like to call me Liebold, with a play on L-I-E in my name. I've been getting jokes like that since I've been in prep school, mate. You're going to have to do a lot better than that to get under my skin. But you're the kind of person that isn't going to go down one of these rabbit holes, that isn't brave enough to see the kind of shit that we have. But you're brave enough to sling shit at us. Yeah. So pull your fucking head in, go down a couple of these holes, and then come and have a talk to me about it and see how you feel.
Yeah.
Right? You've seen the things we have seen, then you earn a right to speak to us any way you like. But until then, keep your disrespectful little childish fucking jokes that you think have an effect on me.
Yeah.
Keep it to yourself. You're not entertaining anybody. You can jerk yourself off all day doing that shit, mate. And keeps you happy. Not going to do much for me.
It says much more about them than it does us. And we have a higher calling. At the end of the day, we're, you know, I've never been interested in sitting down and watching Days of Our Lives at midday. I'm busy doing important things. Yeah. And it's just, there's so much that people don't know. And as they say, if you knew you can't sleep at night, if you know you can't sleep at night, I struggle. I get through on very few hours. And because to lie down and try and close your eyes, first of all, your dreams aren't that good. And secondly, you're thinking about what else you have to do, what else you can do, who else can you get to spread the word, who else can you get involved. I feel reluctant to bring people down the path of some of the things I've seen and some of the things you've seen, Carl. The tunnels, the dams.
There's no reason. There's no reason for people. There's no reason people have to see this stuff or see the worst of this stuff. There is reason that you need to see some of this stuff to actually believe it, to know that there is worse that you don't have to see, but there is some shit you have to see. Yeah. There is some shit you're going to have to know, and it's going to be unpleasant for some people, but it's not going to be frazzle drip. You know, it's not going to be something of such unimaginable horror that you would be hard-pressed finding it in a Freddy Krueger movie or anything of that ilk. In fact, the only place you would find a movie with this sort of shit in it is a snuff movie. So
exactly. Snuff times 1,000.
Understand. If you were joking, great. That's great. That's all good. You know, I don't. The whole Liebold thing's just so childish. I had to go. The thing is, you do need to understand and believe that there is a lot worse out there than you are prepared to look at, and then believe the people that have had a look. Don't ridicule them. Don't stand back and say, "Oh, where's your tin hat?" These are the people who are trying to get the information to you. And believe me, there are those people amongst us that just want to shove red pills down the throats of people who give us the shits, right? And we want to shove them down their throats with malice. I am not one of those people, because that
No.
damages people. But
It would be
you
good if
will
this
come
could be.
across, if you're not careful, you'll come across someone who will
Yeah.
jam a red pill down your throat that will fuck you for life.
Yeah.
All right. So be very careful about taking the piss out of someone and what they believe, because you just might come across an asshole who's been down a rabbit hole and been damaged by it so badly they think you better come down and join them.
Yeah.
And unless you're ready for it, it's going to be a very unpleasant journey. So that's
Yeah.
my warning to those people who don't believe or who want to take the piss. By all means, take the piss. You want the links, you want the sites, you want the pictures, I can help you out. All right? I don't want to. I've already been flooded with requests for them. I'm not giving them out yet. The day will come. But right now, it's not my job to red pill you. It's your job to wake up if you
Yeah.
haven't. And if you have woken up, it's your job to wake other people up by pointing them to videos like this. So
Yeah.
please like, subscribe, get your friends to do the same. Go to WikiLeaks. By all means, please contact me. And we've run a bit long, and it's a Saturday night. People have got to get off to their movie and their Tats Lotto. But we're looking for your help. If you can help WikiLeaks Chick at all, and you're interested in learning how to do some of this research, you might be able to set a task. Here's a pile of files. This is what we're looking for. Whatever you find, if something piques your interest, let me know. Then get in contact with me at voiceoffreedomhq@gmail.com, and I will make sure that I get you in contact with WikiLeaks Chick so she can get the army in order to try and help there. The more people that jump in, the more truth gets found, the faster. That's how this works. So,
the other thing I urge people to do too, Carl, is put the TV off. Go to the marches. Go to the rallies. You'll be surprised how many people are there. The rallies that I've gone to, you see them stand on the outskirts. By the next time, they're moving in a bit closer. The next time, they're moving a bit closer. Turning up to those rallies and being a person who is standing for freedom, standing for our country, standing for our children. We need it right now. Australia was the guinea pig here. We were easy. Geographically, we're isolated. We can't protect our own borders. The country is too vast, and they unmanned. We can't protect our own country from invasion. We had a beautiful country. Let's take it back, folks. Get on your feet. It's rock up to the rally, listen to a couple of people speak, and then go for the walk. It's a nice day. Teaches your kids to stand up. Don't go quietly. We don't go quietly into the night. We don't go off and let them take our country and take our lives. We take our country back. We join forces with people like yourself, Carl, with people like Ricardo and Rio. And more people are coming to the fore now. We're not alone. We have numbers. We just have to show up. Please, just show up.
Show up.
Raina,
I'm with you. I'm with you. That's what I hear. I don't so much see the visions. It's what I hear, and I hear it at the weirdest times. Just comes out of nowhere. It can be rushing wind through a window, and all of a sudden it's kids screaming. So it can be a bit weird. Sue, I saw your comment there a bit earlier too. Sue, you look after yourself if you're going down those holes, girl. Everybody, if you decide to go down these holes, look after yourself. Be prepared. Think of the worst thing you think you could possibly imagine, and you're going to be shocked as shit, because what comes out is 1,000 times worse. Trust me. And the depth that it's been going to for so long. Farmer Mike, I see what you're saying in the comments. I want you to email me a few details about that, because I'll be honest, what you're typing up is the first time I'm hearing of this, and I have direct connections to Fiona Stanley that might be able... now that I think about it, just email me, Farmer Mike. Email me those details.
Yeah.
That's a
Try and network, and
But
if you come
you
across
just might have given me a piece of a jigsaw that's just fallen into place. So please email me what you know about that, whatever's going on. Yeah, Carl, email me at voiceoffreedomhq@gmail.com. I'm very interested in going down that rabbit hole because I know people who live in it. And I'm very interested in going down that rabbit hole. So, yeah. Well, Sue, if you've been down the rabbit hole that we were talking about there, then you know exactly what we're talking about. And I'm sure you would agree it's not something that people need to go and put themselves through unnecessarily. It is a great deal of trauma that at the end of the day is only going to traumatize you until the movement, generally until the majority of the countries, the majority of the world knows what's going on. That's when the healing's going to start. But at the moment, very, very difficult. So yeah, I recommend highly that you safeguard yourselves, folks, if you're planning on going down those holes, because you can't unsee it, you can't unhear it, and we just can't say that enough. Yep, 20,000 kids disappearing in Australia each year. Why aren't we hearing about them? There are reasons for that. We can tell you about it maybe another day. Did I see what happened to the January 6th committee? Sorry, just going through some of the questions here, Shane. Yes. If you believe the January 6th committee is actually a January 6th committee, Shane, you're probably having a bit of a moment. The January 6th committee is an orchestrated event being put on for the world. And you might be surprised to learn who's actually putting it on. But trust me, it's none of the people you think that are. So watch that space is what I'll say about the January 6th committee. Watch that space. There is a lot more to come. And I haven't followed it because I've actually got a good idea about the end game, and that's the only bit I want to see. So, yeah. Bloody great advice here, Eve. Show your kids how to fight for justice. Get them up. Get them active. Take them along to the protests. Obviously, if there is some lunatic being a fool and starting fights and whatnot, get them out of there. But our protests aren't like that. And if there is someone who is like that in our protest groups, then they are sent there to create damage to our movement. And what we do is close ranks around them, stop them, and hand them over to the police. There is no room for aggression in any of our protests. We can, yell aggressively, but we do not take aggression out on each other, and we do not take aggression out on the police. Regardless, as Victoria has seen, if the police want to take their aggression out on you, all that's going to change too, folks. There's a lot of great things. Well, one last question. What do I know about microchip implants, Mark? I know I don't want one. I have a... I tell you what, we might do a show on this one night because I have a CAT scan of someone I know who has something implanted in the back of her neck and nobody knows what it is. And the medical fraternity don't even acknowledge that it's there. So, there's some interesting things going on about microchipping. But I won't be putting my hand up to get one in my hand so I can beat my way through doors or wave my money away or whatever. Stay clear of all that shit. And like and subscribe, folks, please. I hope you've enjoyed tonight. If you'd like Wikileaks Chick to come back, we're more than happy to arrange that. And if you would like to help her in, her quest to get through the piles of information that from task to task happen to arrive, then contact me and I'll put you in contact with her. Thanks very much for coming on tonight. I know we've been trying for the last couple of days and there've just been one thing another has stopped us. I think it was the universe just putting us off until what happened in England today gave us a good reason to get on and have a chat. I'm not concerned about the ruling in the UK at the moment about Julian Assange, even if it's the real Julian Assange in the prison. And I'm not completely sure that that's the case. So not concerned about it because he's not going to get out of the country, at least I would say for a year, but probably closer to 2 years. And if that's the case, he's going to arrive in America right about the time President Trump is standing up again for re-election in 2024. So it's going to be an interesting little period, I would say. Very interesting little period. Well, look forward to having you back. And I've really enjoyed tonight. It's been a great chat and most enlightening. We will delve further into the secrets of WikiLeaks on another night.
That would be great, Carl. Thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone who came and had listened. And I hope that it was enlightening. Yeah.
I certainly learned stuff out of it. I've got to learn how to trim down my search requirements in the search option on the org because I've got to get better at asking it questions. Maybe that's my thing. Maybe that's the thing. You've got to learn the right language to ask it because some of the things I've typed in there and the answers that you get from it are really nothing about the subject matter you were looking for. It can also be some of the most interesting reading.
That's it. And sometimes there's that many files that you can click on one that's in the middle. It's not necessarily that you've got the right order, and that is unfortunate. That's the way it is with technology and the copious amounts of information that we have. I actually would be interested. I think it would be a challenge to somebody. I don't think that it's possible for one human being to get through everything. And if one has, I dare say it was Julian.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to have any questions about knowing what's in there, and he seems to know everything. So I certainly do hope we get him home and that he can be safe and that he does get the Order of Australia.
We get him home, he'll be safe here. Australia will close ranks around him, and he'll never put his hand in his pocket for a beer in any pub in the country.
That's it.
And he'll never have to raise a fist to protect himself because the whole pub will stand to for him. I have no doubt.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Carl, and thank you for your shows because for people like me, it's refreshing, and certainly I'm hoping that more people are paying attention to Ricardo, and I really enjoyed Glenn the other night. That's fantastic, and to know that there's more people out there who are being diligent and taking it for the team. At the end of this, aren't stuck in a 50-hour week, and you can spend a couple of hours even get a mailing list going, mailing lists, so you can get that information out, any information, not just WikiLeaks, but anything that's coming that's verifiable, to get it out and to network it and to be able to get more people who have a mailing list, setting up a spider web of mailing lists. That's how we look after each other, and we make sure the information gets out to those who are concerned and want our country back and want a better world for our kids and for ourselves.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Carl.
Really,
you're welcome.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been awesome.
Folks.
We'll do it all again. We might do it in a week or two's time when we have a little more idea of what's going on with Julian and his appeal, which I'm sure will be coming forth. I think he's got 2 weeks to put an appeal together for the High Court in the UK. So
an appeal will happen.
Awesome stuff. WikiLeaks Chick.
Yeah.
Bloody awesome.
Peace, love among
Peace, love, and tree hugs to you too.
Thanks, Carl.